It's 2 o'clock. I call to order the meeting of the Code Enforcement Board for the City of Tarpon Springs, July 11, 2013. And Bobby, may I have a roll call, please?
You want to get to the invocation? You want to do that first?
Do you? Okay. Okay, great. Tom will lead us in prayer, please.
Heavenly Father, send down your blessing on this meeting of the Code Enforcement Board. Give the board members a clear sense of duty and lead them to a faithful discharge of the same. Direct them in deliberations at this meeting so that all things may be done to the glory of thy name and the welfare of the people of the city of Tarpon Springs. This we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Bobby, a roll call.
Mr. Santota.
Oh, here. Sorry.
Mr. Casey?
Here.
Mr. Kramer is absent. Mr. Bessie?
Here.
Ms. Archer is absent and excused. Mr. DeMasis?
Here.
Mr. Selinsky?
Here.
Mr. Plunkett?
Here.
And Ms. Dabbs is absent and excused also. That completes your roll call.
Thank you, Bobby. Okay, our procedure. It is to the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statute 286.0105 requires that any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of this board follows with each case on its agenda is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the violator is allowed to make a presentation and present any evidence or documents. Then the city can question the violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and on the part of the violator, each party is asked to give a closing statement, first by the city and then by the violator. After those 3 steps are taken, this board then closes the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearings, we will have all potential witnesses stand up and be sworn in by the secretary of the board. Stand up, please.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? You can be seated. Thank you.
Let's see. Gosh.
This is the one that's going to be put on by the building official.
You're, George, what's your last name, George? Okay, you didn't answer. Please answer yes or no to Bobby's question. She asked that you swear.
Do you swear, sir, that your testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, we'll proceed straightway to item number 1 on the agenda. This is 119 East Tarpon Avenue. Is there anybody in the audience? Okay. If you'd please come over here and, pardon? Yeah, but come over here and speak your name and address into the microphone for us. And please have a seat there if you don't mind.
Okay, my name's Manuel Lindiakis. I live at 773 Anklet Landings Drive, Tarpon Springs, Florida.
Thank you. Okay, please proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph DePasco. I'm the city's Development Services Director. In that capacity, I'm also the city's chief building official. The case you have before you with regard to 119 East Tarpon Avenue is a property in our downtown. It's a commercial structure located on Tarpon Avenue. Our office got involved in this building, and if I could, I'd pass out an exhibit which will hopefully walk you through the timeline and how we arrived at this afternoon.
Joey, let me just interrupt you for a second. Every board member has just received this packet. We need to find out whether Mr. Lindiakis, before you start reviewing it, do you have any objections to it?
No objections.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, we would just need one of these to be marked into evidence. And Bobby, you have one of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, please then receive it into evidence. Thank you, Bobby.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. So what you have before you is a list of exhibits, and if I could, I'd like to just walk the board through the history of the property from a code enforcement perspective. In January of this year, our staff went out and inspected the property. That inspection took place on, I believe, January 11th. A number of photographs were taken of the property. They're included as well. The results of that inspection prompted a notice of unsafe building to be sent to the property owner on January 14th of this year. On January 29th of this year, as a result of receiving that, the city did receive a certified letter with an enclosure from the property owner. And as you'll see in the timeline, from that point forward, there has been a number of correspondence between the Development Services offices and the property owner, Mr. Lindiakis, who's here this afternoon. Essentially, by early May of this year, the property remained in the same general condition, with the exception of the fact that Mr. Lindiakis did take it upon himself to secure some of the loose portions of the front facade of the building. There had been some small fragments and portions of wood that had been either become dislodged, loosened, or were in danger of falling into the public right-of-way, and he did have that remedied. But the building itself, the major repairs that needed to be done that had been noted in the unsafe building notice had not been addressed. So the city obviously instituted a code enforcement case in early May, and a notice of violation was mailed to the property owner with all the proper enclosures and the notices that would normally go out with that. Again, really receiving no applications for permits to reprove, and certainly had not received any applications for any review by our Heritage Preservation Board, because this is a historic structure. That then prompted in June for the city to send the notice of hearing for today's hearing in front of this board. I can tell you that Mr. Lindiakis and I have corresponded and spoken on the phone. He has indicated to me on a number of occasions, both in writing and verbally, that his intention is to repair and fix up the building. Earlier today, I did receive a letter hand-delivered from Mr. Lindiakis with a rendering of what he plans the building to look like, with a basic floor plan. Really, staff hasn't had a chance to look at that. It is not an application for any work. It's simply, and I'm sure Mr. Lindiakis will speak to it, is simply a rendering of what his vision for the property is. But as of today's date, and you'll see the pictures that are in, which is the last part of the exhibit, are pictures taken yesterday by our staff. The building remains in a state of disrepair and neglect, and it is our opinion that it's obviously violating our ordinances. With all that being said, we understand that Mr. Lindiakis does have a process that he would have to go through to repair the building, given the fact that it's historic, given the fact that he would have to secure permits. So if the board were to find him in violation today, staff has no objection to granting a 90-day period of time before which any fine would be levied And that would be ample time, we believe, and I've discussed this with Mr. Lindiakis, that would be ample time, we believe, for him to secure the necessary certificate of approval from our Heritage Preservation Board, followed by securing any building permits for those improvements. That's really a brief overview of how we've gotten here today, and obviously when the time's right, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Joey, can you go through what the violations are? There are a number of cited violations, and if you could explain so the board could understand what the violations are in relation to the factual basis for each one of those.
I understand, sure. Excuse me, let me just get to the notice of violation. The city in the Land Development Code does have regulations for maintaining historic properties. That is the Section 112. And if you look at subparagraph A, it specifically talks about keeping the property, not allowing it to cause the site or structure to deteriorate, become damaged, be vandalized, or otherwise fall into a state of disrepair. I think you can see from the pictures that there is a number of significant concerns about the condition of the building. There's cracking. This is also the location where a Easter bomb was detonated on the roof of the structure. There's been damage associated with that. And I think the pictures, you can see where there's disrepair. The roof is emitting rain. And so there's a number of concerns with the condition of the exterior of the structure as well as the roof. The other code sections that are referenced, which would be Chapter 3 of the International Property Maintenance Code, the city adopts the International Property Maintenance Code, which is a national standard by reference in Chapter 9 of our Code of Ordinances. The specific subsections we've cited have to do with the conditions that I've just mentioned, the roof, structural members, the integrity of those structural members. When you see significant cracking and shifting, it does cause concern about partial or full collapse. Obviously, the interior surfaces, just by looking through the windows, you can see are deteriorated. And so if you look through the list of 7 or 8 sections there, they talk specifically about noted conditions by myself and staff. I hope that explains it. If not, I certainly can go into greater detail.
As of today, there are no permits that have been drawn.
No, sir.
Okay, does the board have any questions for the city? I do. Okay, please.
Mr. Tabasco, when was that bomb let off, the Easter bomb?
I believe it was Greek Easter of last year, 2012. I believe so, yes, sir.
And I noticed here also it says, you are hereby advised that the above described violations be corrected by 5 p.m. on July 9th. And obviously, it hasn't been done, right?
That's correct.
And yet, the first letter went out in January.
The first formal correspondence went out January 14th, yes, sir.
So it was 6 months at that point, and still nothing has been done.
The city has received, certainly Mr. Lindiakis, the only correspondence, or say anything we've received in regard to the building has been the rendering we received today. We have received no formal applications for any permits or...
Yet you say some work has been done?
When I was speaking to the some work, there was some, you'll notice in the January pictures in one of the exhibits, there were some loose portions of the front facade of the building, and those have been secured. They've been made safe and tight, so at least they weren't going to collapse onto the right-of-way. That was the work I was referring to.
And yet, you are willing to give him another 90 days?
Well, the reason for the 90 days is I don't believe you can get through the formal heritage preservation review and secure permits in any less time.
How much time do you think it would take?
I think 90 days is reasonable, sir.
And yet he has had since January 11th.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Does the city have any witnesses? Other witnesses that you'd like to call in addition to?
No.
Okay. And then, do you have any questions for the city, and would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes.
Okay.
My name's Manuel Lindiakis. I'm an attorney here in town. I own this building. I bought it a few years back. Pretty much in the condition that it is, with the exception with the hole that was blown in the roof a few years back before this, the city had a concern about the crack in the front of the building, and I had an engineer review it and wrote us a letter that it was not a structural issue, so we didn't have to worry about the building falling down. And then what happened was the economy sort of fell apart on everything. And I've got this other bigger project on Jasmine that got caught in the middle of that, so my whole construction life was put on a standby mode, primarily because of the economy. And believe it or not, it affected my law practice, and you know, there's a lot of financial issues that were going on there. So the property has pretty much been sitting. We did address the structural concern with the crack, but the good news is it's just a facial thing. It doesn't have anything with the worrying about the building to fall down. And then they blew the hole in the roof last year, and pretty much I've been trying to sell it. There's pretty much no bite, nobody wanted to buy it. And then when he put me on notice back in January, I called. I didn't sit around. Nothing was not done. I did call. I addressed my disagreement with the structural part of the crack. You know, I pointed out the fact that it's not structural. I fixed the little pieces in the front to where it wasn't going to fall in the front, and I apologize for it taking us 6 months now. But you know, time goes by like within a blink of an eye, and I was pretty much having to sort out how I wanted to fix it. There was a guy here in Tarpon, I don't want to say any names, he was acting like he wanted to buy it, so that drag put another month in between this equation. And then finally, when I found out he was wanting to steal the building, you know, I wanted to go forward and fix it, because nobody's going to buy it the way it is, and I'm probably going to just fix it and lease it. So what happened was, it took me about 2 or 3 weeks to get the architect signed up. I got Mr. Hoffman, who drew those renderings up. So, you know, I'm apologizing for this 6 months, but, you know, these things sometimes drag out a little bit longer than you want them to. But the good news is Mr. DePasco is going to give me 3 months to get it started. I've made the commitment. I signed the architect up. I've got the first rendering done there. What we're going to be doing is we're going to tear all that whole front out and start from scratch. We're going to put a brand new block wall up, and then frame the rest of it up. We're going to get approval from the historic district. I'm going to pretty much the building's gutted, so there's nothing to do inside with the exception of tear out the old wooden floors there. We're going to put a brand new concrete slab in there. I'm going to expand the building a little bit in the back. There's these 2 little sheds that are back there that were like a place where homeless people were sleeping in, but we're tearing them out. I'm going to put a new roof, new front elevation, new AC, new everything. So it's going to be, hopefully I'll be able to get one of those beautification awards when this is all done. But, you know, I live in Tarpon. I grew up here all my life, and, you know, I'm sorry that I own this building, and it's the worst building on Tarpon Avenue. I have 2 other buildings on Tarpon Avenue that are in good shape. But unfortunately, this thing, you know, with the economy and everything else, it just dragged out this long. And I would kindly ask that, and I agree with everything with what Joey said, with the exception that there's a structural problem there. There's no structural problem there. We don't have to worry about the building falling over. But I agree with everything he said, and if you could please let me have the 90 days. So if the architect's telling me I should have some plans within 3 weeks to submit to the building permit, and I might make a few minor changes to this first rendering, because I'm thinking about putting some coins on the corner. Right now he's just got it with a smooth stucco finish. So I'm hoping within 2 to 3 weeks I'll have my plans submitted to the city for the building part of it, and then I can start the Heritage Board process. So, you know, and I'm committed. I got the funds to fix it, and what Joey had told me was he's going to let me permit it for the whole thing, but I don't have to put the floor in, because if I get a tenant that wants to make it more than just an open space, he's going to let me do the slab or whatever. And I'm going to get an initial permit for the roof, the walls, the electric, the air conditioning. But I'm probably going to leave the floor out and the plumbing out, depending on what kind of tenant I get. But the front's going to be all done, brand new. I'm going to put a new roof. And like I said, I apologize for the 6 months, but, you know, it's been more like 5 or 6 years To tell you the truth, it's been sitting there looking like this.
Mr. Lindiakis, would you like to, call any witnesses at this time?
No, no,
Do
sir.
you have any questions for the city?
No, sir.
And Joey, do you have any questions for the violator?
No, I don't.
Okay. Has, Mr. Lindiakis submitted to you the architectural plans, the engineer report saying that the structure is not, in jeopardy?
Yeah, those are dated.
I did get a letter. It was an attachment to his first correspondence to me where he did attach a report from 2009.
Okay.
That report at that time may have been adequate. I did request a more updated one, which I have not received.
Okay.
If he has it, I have not received it yet.
I don't have an updated one. I mean, the engineer wanted to charge me another $500 to change the date of the letter, so I was hoping I could get started before that.
I just don't
And
know
he's
if the Greek bomb would have had, an adverse effect on that structural integrity.
No, the Greek bomb affected the roof, believe it or not, in the middle of the roof. But that building, if you go look at it, I mean, it's got footers that are, they used to make the buildings in the old days. These are probably 24-inch, 30-inch footers that are, the same depth. And
So you think you can get an architectural rendering within a month?
I've submitted, I don't know if Joey passed that around to you. I've got that elevation done.
Okay.
I gave him 7 copies of it.
But you were talking about, another 2 to 3 weeks for something that you would submit?
Well, he's claiming he's going to have me some construction plans done in 2 to 3 weeks. But I don't want to shorten that 90 days. I was hoping you'd give me the 90 days, but I'm on it now. I mean, I'm not waiting till the
Well,
last minute.
what my concern is, do you have to have those construction plans before you go to the historical?
Right.
You have to have those plans first.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know that question. I don't know if you can go with the elevation
You have
or...
to have the,
Generally speaking, for a Heritage Preservation Board, you just need to pretty much show them a rendering of what the building is going to look like from the street with some examples of the materials and the general configuration of it. So you could do that ahead of the building permit.
Okay.
He could make that application now with some good
Okay.
renderings.
so there's no excuse for delay to submitting an application to the...
And it's my opinion he could apply at
Yeah,
any point in
I
time.
think we can...
Okay.
But I'm probably going to make a change or two to that initial drawing, because that's the first thing he gave me.
Okay.
And I'm not real crazy about just doing it so plain. I'm thinking of maybe putting some coins on the columns. And
Okay.
other than that, I like it. I'm not 100% sold on those stripes for the, but I think those are things that we could discuss with the Heritage Board anyways.
All right, so you're comfortable with the 90 days that the city has afforded you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, does the board have any questions for the violator? Okay, Al?
Mr. Lindiakis, you keep mentioning 6 months, that, all this has been, and yet, and I know, as we look at these pictures, or we look at the building, that these haven't occurred within the past 6 months. This is over several years that these have been like this. And yet, you want another 3 months in addition to the several years that you've already had to fix this building up. Why hasn't something been done earlier? And this bit about, the economy and everything else, we've all been through it. And yet, on the other hand, I don't know how many of us, having been through this economy, have allowed certain violations to occur and then go ahead and blame it on the economy.
Okay.
It would seem to me that you said some other project came up in the meantime, and I don't even care what the other project was, and it may have been very important. However, why hasn't anything been looked at this building in the last couple of years?
Okay.
And even the Easter bomb has been a couple of years. So, if we go up and you say, hey, that's an Easter bomb that they did, we can't, because we live here in Tarpon, we know that wasn't an Easter bomb this Easter. We know it was last year or the year before. And I just am very troubled by the amount of time and the delay that has been in part in this building. It would seem to me that you would have taken care of this, or at least tried to take care of this, even before you got the letter in January from, Mr. DePasqua.
Okay, in response to this, first of all, I haven't been in violation for 3 or 4 years. I just got this letter in January of this year.
Wait a minute, now, you were in violation.
I never was in violation ever before this, in January when he sent me this new crop of letters.
So you think all of this began in January?
I'm not disagreeing with you that the building's in bad shape, and the building's been in bad shape ever since I bought it, but I disagree with you saying that the building has been in violation for 4 or 5 years. He just sent these letters in January, and that's when I got back on working on this thing.
That's when you became aware of the violation.
Okay, no, that's when he suggested I had a violation. Okay, he sent me the letters in January because part of the front of the building there was some wood that was falling off to the front. Okay, otherwise than that, whenever he addressed me with anything, I got the letter from the engineer back in '09 that said it was no structural problems. If he would have sent me something 2 years ago or 3 years saying I'm in potentially violation, it would have gotten taken care of. Why the building sat around all these years? Because it's going to cost me about $130,000, $140,000 to fix it.
For the last few years.
Right.
So you knew then there was something wrong with it.
No, there was nothing wrong with it. Okay,
Why would it cost you $130,000 to have nothing wrong with it?
Look, the building is a shell, okay? You're not going to... I have not been in violation for 4 or 5 years with this building. I haven't fixed it in 4 or 5 years because it's just been sitting there, okay? They just came in January and started putting all these things on me, and that's when we started. And I've been trying to sell it, and the guy wanted to buy it, and I'm not making excuses on anything, and I'm not blaming nothing on nobody, but I'm not going to sit here and you're going to tell me that the building has been in violation for 4 years, because it hasn't been. He just started this process in January.
4 years.
Yes, you did.
I'd like to move this.
And I'm not going to argue with you, but
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
going to fix the building.
Yeah, that's okay. I want to move on. Tom, you had some questions?
Mr. Lindiakis, can you tell us how long you think it would take to bring the property into compliance? I know that we've heard testimony about going through the permitting process, but this property will not be brought into compliance if it's found to be in violation by having a permit approved. How much time do you think it's going to take once you get the permit approved to bring the property into compliance? And I guess we can find out from Mr. DePasqua what that would be, whether it would be a complete demo or whether it would be, the facade and the roof repaired. I'm not sure. We'll have to find that out. But how much time do you think it's going to take to complete your project?
Okay, I'm prepared to start, as soon as we get the permit, get the contractor signed up, and then we're going to tear out the little building in the back, part of this building. I mean, I'm not an expert, but Joey probably would know better than I do, but what I've got to do is I've got to put a new wall in the front, I've got to tear out part of the back, build another little concrete block wall in the back, tear out some slab in the middle. You got to do it's all gutted now. We got to put all new electrical, all new air conditioning, brand new roof, stucco it, paint it, and like I said, we're probably going to leave the floor and the plumbing out until I get a tenant, so I don't have to break that out twice. But I'd like to get it done in 3 or 4 months, but it could probably take. I don't know how long some of these guys are going to take, but I'm going to get started on it as soon as I pull the permit.
Okay. So what you're really looking for then isn't necessarily the 90 days. What you're really looking for is maybe 120 days or 150 days or 180 days to bring it into compliance, right? Because
to get it finished. I think to bring it into compliance is to have it done or to get it started. I don't know that question.
Well, I would think that, if it's been demoed, complete demoed.
No, it's not complete demo. We're just.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is I think that if it was complete demoed, then of course there would no longer be a structural issue. There would no longer be an interior structure issue. There would be, in other words, all of these things would not have existed at that point. So what I'm trying to find out, either from you or from Mr. Costa, so that the board understands that if they grant a 90-day extension, it's still not going to be done in 90 days.
No, we're going to have a permit.
So let's think more in the form of how much time is it actually going to take to get it done.
Oh, completely done.
To bring it into compliance. whatever that takes.
Well, look, for example, you mentioned air conditioning. Air conditioning has nothing to do with whether it's in compliance.
Okay.
I mean, if you were just gearing, you know, not to what it's gonna be so that you
I
can get a
see what you're
tenant, but so that you won't be in violation, because I don't think any of us care whether, you know,
Right.
what you do for the tenant, but we are concerned about what you do for the
Right,
violation.
okay. Well, to satisfy all these conditions, I think it's gonna take, number one, I'm gonna demo that front wall. And that thing is supported by, the perimeter walls, which are gonna stay in place, and then there's steel columns. So the structural components are gonna stay out. The cracks and all the stuff that are in there and the old wood, that's gonna come out. So I think tearing that out and replacing that front wall and fixing the roof would satisfy probably 90% of these conditions, notwithstanding all the rest of the work that's gonna be done, because most of the problem is in the front and the roof, I think.
Well, maybe Mr. DePasqua can
And then the
answer
back
question.
wall, at the same time that we knock out the front wall, we're gonna knock out the back wall. So when the front wall gets redone and the back wall gets redone and the new roof gets put on, I think that would satisfy the condition.
Okay, but then the question again is, how long is that gonna take?
I would probably take 4, 5, 6 months maybe, worst case scenario. But
If I may interject, this is open-ended. As an expert in the field, I'm a licensed, certified building contractor. From where he's at today, with a elevation, realistically, through getting the drawings from the architect, getting review, getting the permit issued, it's probably 90 days from a permit. Then, as he mentioned, he's got to bring contractors online and start work. He's got 6 to 9 months of work if he started today with everything he's got. That's the reality. And I didn't mean to interject.
No, that's okay. I
But I'd like to
appreciate
get on to some board discussions. I've got some comments I'd like to make in regards to this issue before we get let down this journey lane of what might happen in the future if we've been staring at this building for 15 years.
Okay, does the board have any more questions for either the city or the violator?
Well, I have that question from Mr. DePasqua. How much time, well, first of all, what is it gonna take for him to bring this into compliance?
I would say if his plan is what I'm hearing is to repair the building and obviously not do a full demolition, repairing the front wall, the building as I see it shares a common wall with the neighbors on one side and does have a freestanding wall, which I believe the roof is bridged from wall to wall. So I would say the roof and the front wall, the demolition of the rear buildings and whatever extension presumably would be all structural elements into compliance by correcting those. That, I haven't had the benefit of doing a full inspection inside the structure, but I would presume from what I've seen from the outside that would get him into compliance with the maintenance issue as well as any potential structural concerns that still exist with the structure.
And what would be, I know that we've heard from a board member, but what he has told us is not testimony. And so on a testimony side of it, how much time do you think it will take then to bring it into compliance versus getting the permit? And no disrespect, but you need to rely upon the testimony before you. And so it's good information. We all have to, we bring that to the table here. But how much time do you think?
I think the board member is probably correct. Anywhere from 6 to 9 months to complete the project. Now, obviously, you could break it out so you do the elements that get you into compliance first, which could abbreviate the process and make it closer to the 6 months. But if you're looking at completion, I would say 6 to 9 months is probably a reasonable timeline.
Okay. Hopefully that was helpful to the board.
Okay, does the board have any other questions?
I kind of think maybe just for my own curiosity, excuse me, Mr. Lindiak was just talking about replacing the front, some of the other...
Is this a question directed at the city or?
Yes.
Okay.
Taking the front down, putting up a new front, removing the roof or replacing it. Well, some of that make like windows and skylights and door frames. Won't some of that go away when he tears things down? I mean, I'm trying to get a feel because there are so many things here that just obviously aren't gonna go away in 3 months. You see what I'm saying? That some of those things, like especially like the window, skylight, and door frames, if he's replacing the roof, I assume the bad skylight's gonna come out with the demolition.
That's correct. If the roof were to be replaced, or the front wall were to be replaced, any windows, or what are referred to as glazing in those openings, would then be corrected, would be repaired and replaced with up-to-date materials. So presumably, yes, you would bring it into compliance.
And I wonder how many other things in here, because that is like the structural members and exterior walls. It doesn't seem there's going to be very many exterior walls left to be taken off the front, and the side walls are shared.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, let us
One
go
of the
away
two
with
sidewalls.
the demolition that he's talking about.
Actually, the sidewalls are not shared. They're their own walls on top of their own footers.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
No, not yet. There will be we'll close the testimony and then we'll have a,
90 days.
To get the permit, but you're probably right.
the recommendation's 90 days, but whoever makes the motion can decide 90 days, 9 months, whatever, when the motion's made. But, does the board have any other questions for the city or the violator?
I have a question for the city. Is there a recommendation as to what the fine should be if it doesn't come into compliance?
No, I haven't thought about a recommendation for a fine.
Can you think about a recommendation now?
I typically don't get involved in the fine.
Yeah, that'll be us.
Yeah, having done this.
Well,
Yeah.
in all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I noticed that on many other cases that come before us, there's a recommendation presented by the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Officer Santa's really good about doing that, but, that's only come into practice about a year and a half ago. But it's technically our job to put together what we think the fine should be. Any other questions for the city or the violator? Okay, at this point I am going to close the public portion of this, and I would like to open it up for a motion. Somebody want to make a motion?
Can I say one more thing?
I'm afraid not at this point.
To make a motion until we've discussed this a little bit. Number one,
We need the motion.
We need a motion.
The discussion has to come post-motion.
okay.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented, law, at the time of the alleged violations, sections City Code 112-00, City Code 9-1A, of which would include sections INPC 304.1, 304.4, 304.6, 304.7, 304.13, 305.2, 305.3, 306.1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was enforced. The respondent has until the
the 8th
until the 15th day of August of 2013 to come into compliance with the code section of a fine of $50 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter that the respondent remains in violation of said code sections.
On the 15th day, August. So,
31 days from today.
How am I gonna do that? How you gonna do that?
Do a motion, and that's the motion of it.
just so we can get discussion.
do we have a second on it?
Second.
Okay. Board discussion.
I have some more discussion I'd like to add to my motion.
Okay.
I'll just list them real quick, and the letter from the PE that was submitted to that building.
Excuse me. The letter from the PE that was submitted in regards to that building not being unsafe is nearly 4 years old. You can't stand in front of that building and not think that it's unsafe. It would be a stretch of the imagination looking at the photos or standing in front of it that it's not unsafe. It's unsafe. Additionally, it's an eyesore. Additionally, he's admitted that he's been a long-time owner of the building and has done nothing, as that's been pointed out. In addition, he was notified 6 months ago to do something and to date has done nothing.
Now, you're going to amend your motion, you said, or add to?
Nope.
Okay, so that was just, see, my whole hang-up here is it's impossible to bring that into compliance in 31 days.
Agreed.
Impossible in 90.
He should've,
What happens is...
he's gonna get fined.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, Chairman. He's gonna get fined because based on the past history here, that if there isn't a fire, we're gonna see him again in 6 months with a series of excuses. The architect couldn't get the drawings done, the historical society wouldn't review it, oh, it turns out there was a buried fuel tank. It'll be on and on and on and on. It's a very tough project. It's very challenging, fraught with a lot of challenges.
Well, actually, I quasi-agree with you, but what happens here, let's just say hypothetically you're correct. And, well, let's say, okay, you will be correct because he will be forced to fine, but let's say that we give him the 90 days or whatever, 6 months if we want it brought into full compliance. So let's just say we give him 6 months. At the point that it is unfinished in 6 months because of procrastination or whatever, then the fine will start to accumulate. And at that point, the fire's now in place and the fine starts accruing. But it gives the violator a chance here to remedy still without a fine, considering the in excess a six-figure repair bill on this. And I agree, he's known for years. He's been legally advised the beginning of this year. But now, if we give him X number of months, which is a reasonable amount of time to bring the building into compliance, then we all win. But if he does not, if he procrastinates, he knows at this point it will be at a cost out of his pocket. At 31 days, we are implementing a fine right now. And to be honest, I disagree with that. But again, it's a motion, and so I myself would like to see the amount of time extended to be reasonable. And I actually don't even think that the 90 days that the city is calling for to be reasonable, because it cannot be brought into compliance in 90 days. So I would like to see an admitted motion, but more board discussion. I'm done talking about it.
It's okay.
Anybody else wanted to? Okay.
I'm in compliance with you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, the lack, whatever, but 30 days, he will not even be able to get his permits turned in, filed, and receipt. So even though he is taking and making an effort now, whether he hasn't in the past, that, as far as I'm concerned, is null and void. He's aware of it now. He's making steps to improve it or correct it. It's physically impossible to have it done in 30 days. So basically, why is he here? He didn't even have to come because on August the 15th, we're going to give him X amount of dollar fine when it's not feasible. Well,
but again,
that's my opinion.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'm concerned about the engineering report from so many years ago. And I agree with Justin that did the Easter bomb make this building more unstable? I'd like to, I wish we could still ask some questions, because I'd like to know if the city sent an engineer to see it.
Can I say something?
The structure has been, more damaged since this engineering letter from 2009. I have concerns, and I don't think 30 days is reasonable, but I don't think 6 months is gonna get it done either. And if we give him a fine that, just starts growing and growing, then we're back in front, he's back in front of us in another year asking for a reduction. And I don't see why we should reduce it, but who wants, to add a $100,000 fine on top of?
Remember, one of the benefits of his plans is that front being fixed. And again, I'm just strongly in favor of a reasonable amount of time to get this done. I would like to see 6 months. In fact, I think 6 months is really going to be pushing it. He's going to have his vehicle in super high-speed gear to get this done. Otherwise, he is looking at fines. And that's 6 months, and that's going to be real tough to take care of. And I don't plan to make a motion. If I was to make a motion, it would be me to motion 9 months, and probably $100 a day otherwise. But again, think about this: $100 a day is going to accrue very fast on top of what he already owes. But again, we have a motion on the floor.
I'm sorry, my motion was $25 a day.
Yeah, I know it, but I was saying I would like to see, if I was to make a motion, my motion would be 9 months, $100 a day. But having said that, we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion?
Do we have to vote on this motion before we do?
Yeah. We could vote it down, Justin could admit it, or we could just shoot it down and boom. You do have an opportunity to amend if you would like, but otherwise we can vote on the motion. Any other discussion? Bobby, if I could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Plunkett?
I'm voting on the motion, yes. What? As you said for the motion.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Valinsky?
No.
Mr. Demasis?
No.
Mr. Vesey?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
No.
Mr. Sanchez?
No.
Motion failed.
Okay, the motion failed. Would somebody like to make another motion?
I'd like to ask a question of the chair, or Mr. Trask, because, as a fairly new member, I'm not sure. Can we, put into a motion that a fine would be X amount for a certain period of time and then automatically go to a higher, fee after even further? In other words, after, give them 3 months, and then it would be $25 a day, and then after 6 months, if it still is not in compliance, it would automatically raise to $100 a day. In other words, something that would give someone, whether it's just a gentleman or anyone, an incentive that I better get this done because I have a certain period where it's going to cost me $25 a day, and if I don't get it done there, it's going to continue to rise. Has that been done, or is that something that's feasible? Because I think here we're going to have an issue that a lot of us are going to have different opinions as to whether 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. I certainly think 6 months is way too long. I think 30 days is a little short, but I'm leaning more towards 30 days than I am towards 6 months or 9 months or a year. So I wonder if that's something that anybody has done before, if it's something that is not even a way that we can even propose.
You have the legal right to do that. The only thing that would stop you with regard to the fine is the statute says if it's an initial violation, you cannot fine more than $250 a day. So I'm not saying you can't do a schedule of fines dealing directly with a schedule of dates. I think that legally, yes, you can do that. We have not done it here since 1996. I think I've been sitting on this board. We have not done that here that I can remember. We have done situations where for this code violation it's this fine amount, this code violation is a different fine amount. But I don't remember in all these years doing it the way you're suggesting.
My concern,
you can't.
Okay, my concern is, for example, the gentleman testified that, well, to do all the air conditioning work and bring it into compliance and whatever, there's a difference between what we need, what we're looking at, that we need to have this so that it's safe and it complies with all of the parameters and laws and policies of the city, and then any other improvements. So the reason I'm suggesting a schedule of fines would be as an incentive to, hey, I better get this done because it's on the list of fines, as opposed to put the air conditioning or paint the interior, because I don't think any of us are concerned about the paint of the interior. And the only reason I suggest that is to maybe shorten this 9 months up, or 6 months up, or whatever, this period. I'm only concerned with what does it take to bring it into compliance, not whether he's going to get a renter or how good it's going to look inside. And I think that's something we
remember, that's what's working, that's what's going on in this here anyway, is the structure, and that's what's to be repaired. But if we can, we'll take another motion on it then.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, oh boy, City Code 112.00, City Code 9.1, Section IPMC 304.1, IPMC 304.4, 304.6, 304.7, 304.13, 305.2, 305.3, and 306.1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were enforced. The respondent has until the...
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
She's not done.
She's not done yet.
Oh, okay, that's why I didn't hear it.
Yep.
until the 10th of October of 2013 to come into compliance with the code section or a fine of $100, now, let's do $50 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter that the respondent remains in violation of the said code section.
You said $50 a day?
50.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Thanks.
Does anybody want to second this? Okay. I guess that means no, right?
That means it's failed. You've got no second. We need another motion.
Okay. Somebody willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 112.00 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was enforced. The respondent has until September 12th, 2013 to come into compliance with the code section, or a fine of $100 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter that respondents remain in violation of said code section.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, now this motion only includes one code section, so the other 10 have not been included in the motion.
Oh, because they didn't say IPMC?
Because you didn't say 9-1 and you didn't list any of them. The only one you did that I heard was 112.00. Yes. So if you want to include all the others in your motion.
I can't say at all?
No, I need to get them in your motion.
Okay. Then I'll amend it to say plus City Code 9-1, Section IPMC 304-1, IPMC 304-4, IPMC 304-6, IPMC 304-7, IPMC 304.13, IPMC 305-2, IPMC 305-3, IPMC 306-1.
Okay. Do we still have a...
has until the, whatever it said, 12th of September, or a fine of $100 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of the code sections.
I'll second the amended motion.
Okay. Board discussion on the motion.
60 days is not going to get done, so this $100 fine is going to kick in.
No.
I agreed with the 30 days just because I'm concerned about these bricks falling on somebody walking down the sidewalk.
Even going with 30 days, it's not
realistic.
Why should it be realistic? Shouldn't there be a price to pay for allowing a property to look like that and to be a hazard? What if someone had been hurt in there? The building official, it wasn't even secured. He cares so little about the property.
I'm looking at it with the fact that he has to gain permits, he has to get a contract, he has to start working. There's no way it's gonna be done in 30 days.
Cost of doing business.
Pardon?
It's the cost of doing business.
Okay.
He's had 6 months.
He's had 5 years.
That's right.
Okay.
Hey, you said 5, I said 4, yeah.
Yeah, well.
I mean, is it ever gonna get done? Let's get it done.
Yeah, if we give the man the benefit
No,
of the doubt.
he's had plenty of benefit, he's had plenty of time.
Sorry, listen, we know what the disparity is here. Again, the city is, this board, the design of this board is to bring the violator into compliance. We are not here to make money. We're here to bring the violator into compliance. Just try to think what is best for the city. And I can't help but believe that somebody who is willing to take the initiative has financial ramifications if it's not done in an expeditious time. And everybody's happy if compliance is met, and if compliance is not met, a fine will still ensue. Again, just try to set aside your own personal opinion on this and try to look at what is best for the city of Tarpon Springs. Yes, we've had procrastination. The only procrastination that technically is guilty of is from January on. A city may be in disrepair, but it was not legally brought to his attention until January. Any other board discussion? Okay, Bobby, if I could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Plunkett?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Okay. Mr. DeMoss?
Yes.
Mr. Vesey?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
No.
Mr. Sampson?
No. Okay, the 3 and 3, the motion failed. I'd like to pass the gavel if you don't mind, and Wanda, I'll make a motion on this. I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that at the time of the alleged violation, section 112.009-1A, sections IPMC 304.1, 304.4, 304.6, 304.7, 304.13, 305.2, 305.3, 306.1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were enforced. The respondent has until
So today's July 11th?
yeah, so it's
So
like
that would put January 11th?
I just don't know what day that is.
You want me to find out? It's gonna take a minute to get there. Bobby, do you have a calendar for January of 2014?
No, sir, I don't.
It really doesn't matter what day.
Okay.
11th of January would be, I think, Saturday.
Okay.
Okay, let's say the 15th. The respondent has until January 15th of 2014, January 15th of 2014, to come into compliance with code sections where a fine of $100 per day shall be imposed for each day thereafter that the respondent remains in violation of said code sections.
I object.
I second that motion.
I object to the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Bobby, would you do a roll call?
Oh, discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, can we have a discussion, please?
I object to the motion on the virtue of passing the gavel to someone you know is going to vote for you without doubt.
Pardon?
That is
First of all,
so wrong.
yeah, that's completely,
Carl, give us
I
a
mean,
break.
Al, that's improper.
No.
And I gotta be honest with you, with regard to Wanda, her and I disagree more so than we agree. But we do it, amicably. To say that, Wanda would, that's improper, Carl. That's improper.
No, wait a minute. Get your names right on the record.
I'm sorry, I
didn't
apologize.
say anything.
Al Plunkett.
Leave me
Al
out of
Plunkett.
it.
Yeah, I apologize.
All right.
Al, that was improper to make such a, in order to disagree with the motion, you vote no. If you agree with the motion, you vote yes.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, Bobby, will you please do a roll call vote?
Mr. Plunkett,
Oh.
Mr. Slabinski,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
No.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Ms. Casey,
No.
Mr. Sanford.
Yes. Okay. Motion fails.
You gonna pass the gavel back now, Wanda?
Here you go.
Okay.
Passing the gavel
All right.
now.
Unless the chairman wants to make another motion.
Do we have somebody else that wants to make a motion?
I'll try. I'll make a motion.
All right.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, section 112 of the City Code of Tarpon Springs, City Code 9-1, and sections IPMC 304.1, IPMC 304.4, IPMC 304.6, IPMC 304.7, IPMC 304.13, IPMC 305.2, IPMC 305.3, and IPMC 306.1 were in force. The respondent has until,
Andy was in violation now.
I'm sorry, and that these were in force and that the respondent was in violation, and has until the 15th day of November 2013 to come into compliance with those sections, or a fine of $75 per day will be imposed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion. Took me a long time to lean forward to the microphone.
For discussion. Bobby, if I could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Plunkett,
Yes.
Mr. Slabinski,
No.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Ms. Casey,
No.
Mr. Sanford.
Yes.
Passed.
Motion passes. Okay. That'll do it. So you have until November 15th of this year to come into compliance. So that's a little more than the 90 days.
Okay.
And otherwise, it's a fine of $75 a day.
Okay, and that's just to get the front and the
That's
I
to
don't have
bring
to
it into
finish the whole
compliance.
job, just get the front,
That's to bring
fix
it
the
into
roof, and
compliance.
get the back wall put up.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
talking about exterior structure, structural members, exterior walls, roof, drainage, window, skylight, door frames, structural members, interior surfaces, and then component serviceability.
Okay, so when that's done, does Joey come and inspect it, and then he'll tell you guys everything's okay, or how does that work?
Yes, you're gonna call Mr. DePasqua or his department. They'll come out and they'll do an inspection to determine whether it's in compliance or not. If it is, they'll issue an affidavit of compliance, It will come back before the board for acceptance, and then it's done.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna proceed on to agenda item number 4. Is there anybody in the audience for 600 South Pinellas Avenue? If I could have you please take a chair and state your name and address into the microphone.
Yeah, my name is George Poulos. The address 600 South Pinellas. I own George's Breakfast Station.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Sander. I'm the Code Enforcement Inspector for the City of Tarpon Springs. This is case 13-800-00404. The property address is 600 South Pinellas Avenue. The property owners are Demetrius and Alex Canaris, and the business owner for George's Breakfast Station is George Poulos. I have some photos that I'd like Mr. Poulos to look at and approve before submitting them to you.
These pictures over to your soul.
They're dated, George, at the bottom left-hand side.
You brought me 2 years ago here for the sign, remember? I came for the sign here, I found for it. That's over 2 years old. The neon lights that we run is maybe a year ago.
There's a date stamp on that.
Yeah, Dave can say whatever they want to, yeah. But I'm sorry, I put the neon lights to make it look nice.
I just need you to approve those photos so that we can put them into evidence.
The photos are date stamped, so at the date stamped on that photo, is it accurate?
Actually, what he's doing is he's looking at the evidence, determine whether or not, Mr. Poulos, if you have a legal objection to it being received into evidence, you need to tell the board what you believe the legal objection is. You'll have the opportunity to testify about them, discuss what you believe that they depict, that type of thing. But the question is that do you have a legal objection for them being received into evidence? Okay, so we can move on then.
This is a repeat violator, cases 11-8000641 and 12-8000300 for code 179.01. On May 31st, I noticed that this business had installed lights around the perimeter of its freestanding sign. I checked with Development Services, who informed me that no permits had been obtained for the addition of the lights. This property was in violation of code 179.01, permit required for the sign and any modifications thereof. As a repeat violator, a notice of hearing was sent via first-class mail and certified return receipt on June 3rd of 2013 to the property owners and to the business owner. The property was posted on June 21st, 2013. On June 3rd of 2013, while taking photos of the sign, the business owner approached me and asked what I was doing. When I told him, he insisted that the lights had been there for at least 3 years. I told him that a photo I took in 2012 showed no lights, and that there was no permit on file for the lights, and that he should expect to receive a notice of hearing from our office. On June 26th of 2013, a permit was pulled for the lights. This property was in violation of code 179.01 from May 31st, 2013 to June 26th of 2013 as a repeat violator. I recommend $25 per day from May 31st of 2013 to June 26th of 2013. And please be advised that the recommendations I make for fine amounts is a minimum amount.
the board have any questions for the city?
Basically, what's in question is what, neon
He put a neon lights around
the
sides
border of the sign without obtaining a permit.
That's correct.
Has he, since that notification, applied for a permit to have that?
Yes,
Okay.
he's in compliance currently.
You're welcome.
Bobby, please receive those documents into evidence.
Cindy, could you, I may not have heard it because I was reading your backup. Did you already testify as to when the original case was heard and whether it was found in violation of the original case? And was it within a 5-year period of time?
The cases were 11-800000641 and 12-8, so they were 2011, 2012.
And was it the exact same
Yes,
property
same
owners and
code,
violators?
179.01, same property,
Okay. But same property
same
owner?
property owner. Correct.
So it's about signs, isn't it?
Pardon?
Those cases were about signs, weren't they?
Yes.
Does the city have any witnesses?
No.
Any other questions of the board for the city at this time? And if I could have an opening statement for you, and then if you have any questions of the city. Would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes. In time, Cynthia came and told me I need a permit for that. I want to get a permit. So it's all done. Inspected, everything's done. I didn't know I need a permit before for neon lights. I'm sorry. So she told me, a week later I got a permit. The inspector came, signed off, everything is done.
Do you have any witnesses? Okay. Does the board have any questions for the violator?
No. No.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, all right, and we'll close the public portion.
Can I still have a question for the city? Or is it too late? Okay. Unless I'm misunderstanding, I got your repeat violator, but on July the 8th of 2013, I've got paper here of affidavit of compliance.
Right.
Is that because he applied and got his permit?
Right.
So basically...
He was in violation from May 31st until June 26th, which is when he obtained the permit to have the lights around the sign.
Okay.
So we have to, at that point, we issue an affidavit of compliance.
Right.
And the case has to be heard before you accept the affidavit of compliance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just for clarity's sake, you gotta understand that the reason that she's giving you that affidavit of compliance, that's the cutoff. Since it's a repeat,
Right.
it doesn't get a time to come into compliance. The fine starts if you find a violation back on the day of the inspection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's
I
like the
understood
window
that.
of time, she's
Yeah.
showing you a window of time.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law, that the respondent was in violation of section 179.01 of the Tarpon Springs City Code of Ordinances from May 31st, 2013 until the initial inspection date, until compliance on June 26, 2013. A fine of $25 per day is imposed for, I didn't count how many days, but I did do the math and came up with $675. Give me 1 second.
You don't need to do the math. You've already listed the dates.
Okay. $675.
But the fine is per day, $25 per day from May 31 to June 26. That's your motion though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? I think that's a kind of a hard fine. Yes, he should have got a permit as soon as he was advised. He did immediately go out and get a permit. And yes, he should have known better to do anything without a permit, as it was advised in the last meeting that he was in. But I still, 675 might be a hardship, and I'd like to see that daily fine reduced myself. But any other board discussion?
Well, can we, I heard somebody, I don't know if it was Cindy, somebody indicated what the minimum was. Can we establish a lesser fine? Are we required, if we find him guilty, to make it $25 a day?
No, absolutely not.
All right, I propose then that...
Well, wait,
you have a motion on the floor.
we still have a motion on the floor.
We have to
You know,
vote on this.
we're still in discussion, aren't we?
Yeah, we're still in discussion.
So, I had the pleasure of
Wanda
having...
was about to say
Oh, I'm
something.
sorry, Wanda.
Cindy notified the owner 4 days after she saw that, and that wasn't, that was June 3rd. And it wasn't until June 26th. Doesn't take that long to get a permit, I don't think. And he's been before us 2 other times on sign violations. You'd think by that time he'd figure out, if I want to do anything about signage, I better check with the city.
Violation.
It's just that, you know, this isn't the first time. It might be extravagant if it was, but he's had so much trouble with signs that he should just know to call the city. That's what I agree with. It's reasonable.
Justin, you had something?
I just wanted to share kind of what Wanda had said and what the chairman had said. First, that we've had George in front of us twice since I've been here over sign issues, and I would have to agree with Ms. Wanda that I think it's perfectly clear that you don't touch the signs without permission, period. But I would also agree with the chairman that that hurts pretty bad, $675 for the neon. Although Wanda's point again is clear, he probably got the permit in a day. He just go and apply for it and submit a little drawing, and he probably could have got it in a day.
And was it Carl? Do you have a...
No, the only thing I was concerned with was, I think that it's clear that the gentleman has had trouble in the past, and obviously hasn't been that concerned. Nonetheless, I think $675 could be a harsh penalty. I don't know what his business is, and I don't know, whether $675 is a lot or little to him. But I think, in your own words, Mr. Chairman, earlier in a different case, you had indicated that we were trying to get things into compliance as opposed to make money on the deal. So I think that some fine certainly is warranted. Whether it needs to be $675 is my point. I think I would feel better with a far less fine, but yet still with a fine, and not letting them just walk out of here, because obviously he hasn't paid attention, at least in 2 other cases. So I think we need to be reasonable, and yet we still need to apply the policies of the city. So that's all I'm suggesting, is that maybe each of us should consider what would be reasonable that somebody would say, if they find me, I'm not going to let them go back another time. So that was why I was proposing. I had thought in my own mind something between $100 and $300. So it's enough to sting you, it's not enough to hurt you. So you can't make your payroll. That's all my point is.
I just, he didn't get it the first 2 times, and then he tried to tell Cindy the lights had been there 3 years. Good thing she had pictures.
I'd like to underline that what Wanda just said. I mean, he told him that the lights had been there, when in fact they had. He knew full well that he had just installed them. I noticed them right away driving down the road the other evening, and I'm like, George put lights around his sign. He tried to deny that he did it right to the officer.
Good points. Good points. Any other discussion? Bobby, if we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Plunkett?
Yes.
Mr. Fulginsky?
No.
Mr. DeMassis?
No.
Mr. Vesey?
Yes.
Ms. Vacation?
Yes.
Mr. Santo?
No. Motion fails. Does somebody else want to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion. I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented, and law that the respondents were in violation of section, let me get it here, City Code 179.01 of the Tarpon Springs City Code of Ordinance from the initial inspection date of May 31st, 2013, until the property was brought into compliance. A fine of $15 a day is imposed until, is imposed for the total fine. I'd have to do the math, but it's from May 31st to June 26th. $15 a day for those days.
I'll second the motion.
For discussion. One of these days I'm going to bring my calculator. Okay, so it's going to be a fine of $405. $405. Any other board discussion? And Bobby, if I could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Plunkett?
Yes.
Mr. Kalinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Demasis?
Yes.
Mr. Vesey?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
No.
Mr. Sanfetta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right, so the fine is $405. It's a little bit less than what the city had suggested.
Okay.
But yet it is still a fine, and I've got to be honest, I feel strongly that this was a third chance. And I really was torn about not voting for the full amount. But again, this was a third chance. If I can just suggest any modification, please pick up the phone and call the city. As we told you the last two times that you were in here, if you have any modification, please call the city, and you'll avoid this expense. Okay, we're going to go to affidavits of noncompliance. Is there
Chairman,
anybody?
excuse me, sir. Chairman, can we have a 5-minute break, please?
Okay, sure. And you're all done, George.
All done?
Okay, thank you. Okay, to lighten things up here.
No.
Please do, Chairman.
In adjournment right now.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about, I just came back from Alaska.
Okay, all right. There's no board business, okay.
I came back from a visit to Alaska, and
Flew for free?
no, are you kidding me?
Okay,
All
all
right,
right,
anywhere on United Standby.
all right.
I meant to fly to Alaska in March when it's less desirable, and I got booted off my first flight, so we decided to buy tickets. My little grandson, 1 year old, is just full of personality. The kid is a little teaser. I'll put his sock on. He'll remove his sock when I'm not looking and put it in his mouth and stare at me until I turn and I see him. It is so funny. And then my 3-year-old Molly, she is just a prize. But,
So a lot like your grandfather.
oh, I am afraid not the grandfather on my side of the line, but, the fact is, it was just a wonderful time with my son, my daughter-in-law, and we did a lot of praying out there, and it was just a Kenai Peninsula, about 3 and a half hours south of Anchorage, and just beautiful country there. Lots of fishing. Halibut is big over there and tasty, but boy, is everything expensive. from gas to halibut to, everything else, you name it, but I just had a wonderful time, but that return flight, Sadotna is where they had that, accident where.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that just made the news
Yeah.
a couple days ago or
Yeah,
whatever.
the day after is the day that we flew back, and, I was going to go on that little one, but I went on one that's a little bit bigger. It held 19 people just to make my wife feel a little bit more secure, but, Sadotna to Anchorage to Seattle to Dulles to Tampa took me 15 plus hours. I might as well have gone international to like Beijing or something, but it was still well worth it to see the little kiddos. Thought I'd share that with you guys during our recess.
Thank you.
Yeah, but about the standby, really, I've got to try to go standby at the end of this month, and I don't put much.
All those years you put in, and they're just, yeah.
Yeah, but even when I was working for United, I purchased tickets on Southwest because I couldn't get anywhere. So, do you have standby trips?
I only worked there a little over 7 years,
Oh.
so I'm not 10 years vested or whatever, so no.
Yes.
When it was time for me to get out, I said, the heck with this. Too much, I didn't have a cushy job like you. I'm never gonna get that good. In the pits and loading and unloading and everything else.
Cushy job. Mine was a babysitting job.
It was. I don't know how you did it, Mark. I couldn't do it.
I don't know. I couldn't have done it without people like you, Jerry. I mean, I was so glad to see you on the board. So, and then poor Cindy got stuck babysitting my raggedy old cat. Cat's 20 years old.
That is a raggedy old cat.
It looks. Still have hair? It sort of has hair. Cat has a little bit of hair, right, Cindy?
Huh?
My cat has a little bit of hair, doesn't it?
Oh, my God.
Hey, what do you expect? 20 in human ears, that's like a million or something. I don't know what that thing is.
I don't know, but I just, it's a walking bag of bones is all that poor little cat is.
Has it been 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. Has it? Okay. So we'll resume. And with regard to affidavits of noncompliance, is there anybody in the audience for 1018 Hamilton Avenue or 331 North Safford Avenue? Anybody in the audience? Okay, if I could have a motion to... Thank you.
I move to accept the affidavits of noncompliance on case number 13-800000195 and 13-800000241.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Affidavits of compliance. Do we have anybody in the audience for 500 Seaview Drive? 160 Reed Street, 536 East Tarpon Avenue, Suite 3, 1015 South Florida Avenue, 600 South Pinellas Avenue. If I could have a motion for the affidavits of compliance, please.
I move to accept the affidavits of compliance on case number 0880000. I'm sorry. 08-8000138 11-2000010 12-2000016 12-800000707 and 13-800000404.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll proceed to old business. Again, nobody in the audience for 500 Seaview Drive. You guys have the paperwork in your possession for a request for reduction in fine and a city's response. Cindy? you have anything you wanted to ask?
No, if you have specific questions for her, remember now, we're only supposed to do it based upon the written documentation. So if you have a specific question, you can ask Cindy, but otherwise, she's not gonna give you a narrative.
All right.
Don't get her started.
Don't get her started.
Well, I like her, recommendation. Board discussion on this?
I agree with it, what Cindy recommends.
I just would agree with her, as you might expect.
Okay, well, would the board like to make a motion and we can discuss it?
I would, like to make a motion.
All right?
I move that the fine of $75,000, I think.
Yes.
75,000, okay, for citation number case number case 088880001386 be reduced to $250. This reduction will occur upon payment of the stated reduced amount. If paid within 60 working days of this order, failure to pay the reduced fine will result in the original amount of $75,000. My reason for that is...
We'll discuss for a minute. Do we have a second?
I second that.
All right. And board discussion now. Go ahead, Al.
Thank you. I'm sure everyone has read the letter when they got it from Cindy, and it looks to me like these people who have moved here from Canandaigua, New York, really wanted this property in so much that they moved from Canandaigua, New York to Seaview Drive in Tarpon Springs. And the letter sounds very much impassioned to the house on 500 Seaview Drive, and the amount of money that they took, cashing out a 401k and flying down to New York to close the house, really was a serious action on their part to buy this house. I can't expect them to be anything but great citizens of Tarpon Springs, whoever they are, or Mr. and Mrs.
Well, while I agree with you, Al, I would like you to consider at least increasing the monetary amount to cover the administrative cost to the city, which,
$750, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. I bet I would amend my motion to $750 for the administrative cost. In fact, that's what I meant to say, and I'm sorry I didn't.
I'll second the amended motion.
Okay, continue board discussion. Okay, then, Bobby, if I could have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Plunkett?
Yes.
Mr. Kobrinski?
Yes.
Mr. DeMassa?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Tensar?
Yes. All right. If I could have a motion to approve May and June's minutes, please?
I got a motion to approve the minutes from the May Code Enforcement Board meeting.
I'll second the motion.
We have June too, if you wanna...
Oh, I can do it together?
Yes.
May and June's minutes.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any public comments at this time? Okay, Tom, please proceed.
You see this young lady in the audience today. She's been sitting here very, very quietly. I want to introduce you to her. This is Maria Patelis. Maria is an attorney in our office, and she's worked with us for a number of years. And Maria has become very, very interested in trying to help out with some of the municipal work that we're doing. She is basically an expert in the family law area, but she's very interested in becoming an expert in code enforcement, board of adjustment, and other city matters. And so she's kind of following me around every once in a while. She'll appear at a meeting. I didn't know she was actually coming today. But she's here to see how I do things and how this board operates. So I just wanted you to let you know who she is. And you may see her here, you know, if I'm sick or I'm on vacation or something, that, you know, there's 6 or 7 lawyers in the office, and Maria is one of them, and she may be covering one of the meetings.
So I just wanted to introduce you.
Welcome, Maria.
Hello, Maria.
Welcome, Ms. Patos. Glad to have you. Anything to lighten up the...
Are you sure you want to do this?
All right, are there any other board or staff comments? Okay, then it is 3:35, and we're adjourned. Thank you very much.